So I've been doing a lot of tutorials for Keen Ramps channel. I like to use their rails and ramps, show you how to do the trick on that rail and ramp, and then you could actually purchase the exact rails and ramps that I'm showing you how to do the tricks on. That way, there's no weird translation from like, yeah, I'm showing you how to do this trick on this round bar, but I only have a square bar at my local skate park. It'll literally be the exact same obstacle. Of course, you can take the information that we give you to any obstacle, because honestly, I think they're just kind of like the perfect flat bar. And what's great about them is they're adjustable for this particular trick. I get so many requests for this particular trick. This one and feeble grinds on ledges, I think, are the most requested trick that I do. So I'm gonna go into as much detail as possible about how you can do this trick. Because in reality, if you can like kind of ollie, you can learn this trick. It's super simple. It's a trick called a Rayleigh. It's when you Wallie your rail, but essentially what you're doing is you're doing a really mob ollie. You're hitting the board here, you're letting your back foot come off a little bit, so when it bounces back to your back foot, and you clear the rail. The thing that I really like about this Keen Ramps rail is that, personally, I like a very particular height for Raille, and I think that the Keen Ramps rail, one hole up, is like the perfect height for this trick. If you like put your tail down, look how it's my wheels set up against it. Instead of like being here, so it'd be like kind of hard to overshoot, or if it's like to here, like low stuff is really hard to Raille. You really want something that your wheel's gonna be like resting against. That is like the exact height you wanna learn how to do Railleys on. So the first thing that you wanna do for this trick is to think, where do I want my board to hit the rail? And the answer is, you can aim for your front wheels to where like you'll barely tap it, and that's always a really cool feeling, but it's hard to be consistent with that. I try to focus on aiming right below my truck. I try to hit here, like as close to my truck, but not on my truck as possible. And you don't necessarily, on something this height, you don't really ollie into it. Because when you ollie, you're gonna tend to wanna level it out, because that's what you've been doing your entire skateboarding ollieing career, is trying to level out your ollies. Do not do that with this trick. You want to mob the crap out of this. You want it to be as Al Capone as possible. Like basically tail scrape into it, like a, in fact, I always tell people to think of it like that. When you're learning the tricks, it's kind of like that. That's what you're really doing into this trick. Because if you ollie, not only is it gonna make you wanna level out and catch your back truck, it also will make your front foot kind of go a little close to the nose, which can be kind of like a weird, you don't want your foot up here really that much for this trick. You want it to be kind of over the bullets. So I'm gonna do one, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So the ideal speed for this trick, I would say, is one real push, like one actual like starting push, and then like a half baby push. Because if you go too slow, you might not clear the flat bar, and if you go too fast, the timing is gonna get so much harder. The faster you go, the harder it is to time this trick. One of the other mistakes that I see people do with this trick is they keep their back foot on too much. If you watch anyone do a Raille, it happens so fast, so a lot of people don't catch it, but your back foot totally comes off the board. You're very much front foot here, back foot over here, and you're sort of doing this like sticky clap to your hand thing. I also recommend having a flat bar that is very sturdy. If you have one of those little Target flat bars that go sliding across the ground, it's not gonna work. The Keen Ramps flat bars, we actually have these no slip grip things on the bottom of the leg, so they like barely slide at all. As you can see, I ran into this rail pretty good and it barely moved. If it moves a little bit, it's fine, but you don't want it to be like the rail following you when you try to do the Raille. One of the other things that I would say about this trick is you really need to have Wallies down. You can't like just kind of like kick your board at the rail and land it without understanding the concept of a Wallie. Because with a Wallie, when you hit something, you're going up in the air. You're not just like going off the corner of it. When you watch someone do a proper Wallie, they hit the wall and they actually get a little bit of air from it. And the reason that that works is you're basically doing an ollie without really sliding your foot up. The wall is what's actually throwing you in the air. The verticalness of the wall is bringing your board up, and then you're kind of bashing off the corner. And that concept of being light-footed and hitting something is 100% the concept that you use for this. There's been a couple people that I taught this trick. In fact, Lizard King, he was at El Sereno Skate Park, and he was like, oh, how does that trick work? And I was like, oh, like I pretty much explained very similar to what I just did to you, and he kept clipping his back truck. And I was like, just pretend it's a wall. Like pretend that there's like actual something here underneath the rail, and then just try to Wallie it. And that try, he just went bloop and went right over it. So I think having that mindset of understanding how Wallies work and translating that into the attempts of these is definitely gonna make it a little bit easier. Because with Wallies, sometimes your back foot comes off for those too. A lot of times when people Wallie, as they get into it, it's a much smaller leaving their back foot from the board, but their back foot's still leaving from the board. So having that like commitment mentality. The other thing is, if you're kind of like light footing around too much with this trick, the board's gonna stay behind you. So if you're like feeling very not confident when you roll up to the rail and you think you're not gonna get over the rail, there's like a 95% chance that you're not gonna get over the rail. That like fear of like not getting over the rail, it's gonna translate into your like body language and your like movement, and it's gonna make you way too hesitant to actually like hit the rail and bounce over. Because it is aggressive to hit it, but then very, very like light foot afterwards. So you need to go in with confidence, have the board bounce to your feet, and then you just kind of float over. So I'm gonna do another one, and yeah, I don't know, just try to keep those things in mind. Watch how I hit it kind of aggressively, but then I'm very, very almost twinkle toey once I'm bouncing off the rail. My back struck actually caught the rail pretty good. Like that one was like a hit and then I kind of caught it, but I still rolled over because I was so light-footed. I think if I would have ran into it any more aggressively and wouldn't have gone light-footed, I would still be back here kind of stuck. Now the other thing about this trick is I think it's a very scary trick. There's the fear that you're gonna like just like run into it, teeter over and get hurt. I really haven't seen anyone get too hurt doing this trick. I think it is a pretty safe trick. The main thing that happens is people will try it, their board will get stuck, and then they'll just fly over the rail and land on their feet. It's not like someone's like pulling the rug out from underneath you when you try this and mess up. You don't go falling forward. If anything, the board gets pulled out from underneath you, but you're fine because it's only the weight of the skateboard that's getting tugged back. It's not like grabbing your feet. There is no real way to fail this trick. Like no one's like kind of like jumping at it and then like getting over the rail next to their board, because your truck will always catch. Your body weight does need to hit the rail at first for it to actually clear the rail. Like if you kick your board at the rail, it's probably not gonna make it over there. You gotta kind of bounce back, because what happens is it does exactly that. It bounces off the rail, but when it comes back to your feet, your momentum's bringing it over. Let's film a couple in slow-mo so you can see exactly what's going on. So a quick recap, you want to be able to Wallie. You want to be able to ollie higher than the rail, which I haven't said yet till right now. You definitely want to be able to ollie higher than the rail. You want to mob your ollie and do not level it out. Force of habit will make you try to level this out. You have to fight that. Treat it almost like a tail scrape, but maybe give it like a little bit of pop. Let your back foot come off the rail. Be aware that your back foot comes off the rail. It'll make it so much easier. So if the flat bar on a lower setting is not working for you, find a taller flat bar, or if you have the Keen Ramps rail, they are adjustable. So I went from the first hole notch, I went all the way up to the third, to where it's like, you know, just like a decent height. It's a little bit easier for me to aim just below my front truck, because when it's lower, you have to do more of a mob ollie, and when it's taller, you can just ollie a little bit later and not have to focus so much on how mob it is. So that kind of puts it at this point. Now you can't just run into it now. You actually have to pop because my nose is right there, but maybe that might make it easier for you. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna do a couple at this height, and you can just see how it's different, how I ollie different, and if there's, you know, a different distribution of body weight. I don't think there is, but we'll find out. I haven't compared the two before. So it is very much like an ollie that you're not popping the rail, is doing the getting in the air part for you, much like a Wallie. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. There's gonna be a lot of trial and error and you figuring out what works for you. I always do say and push really hard to aim for right here. I know a lot of times you will hit lower and it'll still work. But for some reason, when I focus on hitting right here, it puts my body weight in the right spot to make the board bounce off the rail. And on a taller rail, like a rail that's like a good bit taller than that, like I really have to like hit right here, because when it's taller, it's harder to get above the rail. And if you hit here, your back truck will definitely catch. So in the smaller rails, you know, if you're loading on the smaller rails, you can get away with like a little bit lower hits, but really try to aim for right here. And if you're doing it to where you're only hitting your back wheels, it's not really a Rayleigh, it's an ollie that you can pop high enough. Not saying that that's not a different trick. That's some really good aiming. I'm sure you never get any pee on the toilet seat, but that is not the trick that we're working on. Anywho, thanks for watching, and yeah, go follow Keen's channel for